Welcome back to my channel. All right, thank you guys for tuning into my channel once again. And as you can tell by the title, today we will be talking about how I came up with the idea for my debut novel. It all began on one fateful summer evening or night, morning, somewhere in there. It started with a dream in the summer of 2016. I awakened from having the most cinematic dream that I'd had in a while. And I don't know if any of you have seen the Winx Club or the cartoon, the Winx with the fairies and all that, but it was kind of like that, but with real people. And I saw 3 brown skin, like beautiful brown skin fairy women with like the luminescent wings dropping down into a cave with luminescent tattoos all over their limbs, and they were looking for their friend that had been taken. So when I awakened from that, I said, let me record this right now before it escapes my brain. And that's what I did. So as you guys know from my previous video where I told you all about my author origin story, I did not do anything with this story until April 2024, so 6 months ago. I wrote it down and I played around with names and ideas and such, but you know, as I've let you guys know, I was a pantser. I was the most disorganized pantser. So I had these ideas and I could even expand on it with some scenes from that same story, but I had no way of connecting them. And here, I would probably put like somewhere around here, a picture of the book that helped me in 2020 or 2021 to get my life together in terms of figuring out how to structure things. It was super helpful to me, and I will continue to push that along for any of the other new writers out there who may be struggling with outlining. But until I got to that point, 4 years after having the dream, I just was not doing anything with the story, nothing substantial at the very least. I think the most significant thing that came out of that time was that I figured out their names, my main 2 characters' names, and nobody else's. So now it's October 2024 and we are a planter. So we do a lot of organizing, outlining, and just thinking around. So with that in mind, I've been able to figure out quite a bit. For example, the genre of my current novel is fantasy fiction. It's fantasy with romance, like is a romance plot that is essential to the story. So does that make it romantasy? I still don't know the difference because I'm clueless. So if you guys know, please comment down below and explain the difference to me because I'm still not clear on that. So it could very well be writing a romantasy, but right now I'll just say it's fantasy with romance. So outside of the love story, the 2 main themes of my book are reincarnation and identity. So actually those 2 hand in hand. But with the identity portion, I wanted something where my characters learn about who they used to be in a past life through the reincarnation theme, but there will be a struggle between uncovering their past and reconciling that with their present. I know who I was, but is this who I am, and is this who I want to be? That sort of thing. A question that I feel like a lot of us can relate to even without the magic and the steamy romance and all the things. And with the love portion, I wanted a love that transcends time and gives you all the feels, but also this will be very much so, at least for me, more realistic. I wanted to show something where what happens if you're not the person yet that is ready to receive that instant love or that connection. It exists. It could still be all butterflies and rainbows when it kicks in, and that's a good feeling to have. But if you're not ready to receive that and to reciprocate that, what does that look like? So I wanted to play around with that as well. So my novel is set in the real world, but better. So if any of you have read the Mortal Instrument series by Cassandra Clare, it's kind of like that, where the real world is what regular people perceive, but there are magical elements embedded with the real world that our characters will see and be a part of. So real world, but also not. So now let's get a little deeper with my protagonist. So I know a lot of people say that you shouldn't do this, but I did it anyways. So my female main character is the best and worst parts of myself. As a new writer, which I did this completely unintentionally, but as a new writer, I just found that it's so much easier to write completely from a place that I know and am familiar with versus constructing something completely out of thin air, which you're already doing with the story and you're already doing with certain elements in the story. So my female main character, figuring her out was honestly probably like the hardest part in this whole process and why it took so long, because I could see her in my head, but who she was and what she wanted and things like that were just not clear to me until 3 months ago, maybe 3 to 4 months ago. But I say that because I wanted to make her flawed. As wonderful as she is, and she'll have some great traits, she is also a prideful individual and quite stubborn, which again is a familiar concept for me. And she has this inability to deviate from this path that she set forth for herself. So when the magical world comes in and when that calling happens, she's not excited about it. She's not like, ooh, whoopee. You know, she is like, no, this is not the plan that I have set for myself, and I'm not going to do that. You know, stubborn. But of course, as these stories go, it's not really something that she can ignore, and she is forced to pivot. And then we get to see what that looks like when such a stubborn, prideful person is forced into certain decisions and certain pathways. So at the heart of my story is this question of, who do you think you are? We know who you were, we know who you want to be and where you want to go, but who are you in this moment? And how will accepting who you were before impact who you will be in the future? I'm not sure if I'll make that a recurring theme throughout every book in the series, but for sure, book one, it's, who are you even? What are you doing? And then, of course, as my story progresses, my female main character is forced to decide which path that she's going to choose. And of course, whichever one she does choose will completely change the outcome for the subsequent books. We see her kind of dancing in and out of both paths, but you know, fork in the road continues to get wider. She is forced to make a decision, and then we'll see the impact of that later. Something else that I would like to achieve with my book that I may have mentioned in a previous video, but I am a trained archaeologist, so that became a second passion of mine once I got through college and got to experience that. And I want to somehow bring those two passions together, so there will be elements of that archaeology touch in my books. It will not be the central theme or the central plot or anything like that, but it is important to me to include elements of that study in my story, so you'll see how that plays out. So one of my characters will probably be an archaeologist. So if you are interested in a story that has the romantasy or fantasy with romance, don't know the difference. If you were interested in that aspect in a story, or if you were interested in the stubborn, prideful female protagonist, or seeing an archaeology element being thrown into the mix, or just seeing how I develop the magic and all of these wonderful elements, then please follow me along for this journey. Of course, I will be getting deeper into more specifics from my story as I make them, but as I stated before, at some point, I am in the first draft stage of my first novel, so this is the stage where I could put something down on paper today and it could be completely gone tomorrow. So I don't want to tell y'all something and then change my mind tomorrow. So as of right now, these are the elements that are permanente, they are staying. They're not going anywhere, and anything outside of that, I will update you guys on any changes and take you along with me. Thank you guys for tuning into yet another video, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can continue to follow along with my insanity.